is S48, war number 9, and we're up against Nefti, and this time my team will be White Tiger, Silk and Dust. I will be taking path 6 in section 1, path 1 in section 2, and then I will be taking Korg, Vision Aarkus, Kindred, Chavez mini-bosses, along with the Bullseye boss using Dust. Now first things first, I am well aware that my war videos are roughly 2 weeks late at this point, but it's better late than never, and since the next season also has the same tactic, it's not really irrelevant to post these videos, so I'm doing it anyways. Now starting off here we have a Blade on the Combat Deja Vu Prowess and Spiked Armor nodes, and I'm taking the fight with Dust. Now I do have the recoil masteries on for this, and at this point in time we already had the free mastery swaps, which means that I will be changing my masteries for almost every single fight going forward. And that said, I have cut out the part where I do that, since it's a ton of editing for no real good reason. Just assume I'm running recoil if I'm using Dust, and that I'm not running recoil if I'm using someone else. Now for this specific matchup here, there's nothing really special going on. It's just a Blade with the defense tactic, which is, well, not really a threat. A single special 2 from Dust and the fight is done in less than a minute. Did take some cheap damage here and there, but that is to be expected no matter who you fight, as long as they are a tactic champion, since you do have to block here and there. Then next up we have a Shuri here on the aggression prowess and critical setup, I think, and I am taking the fight with Silk. Now as you can see, not running the recoil masteries for this one, since Silk doesn't really have any protection against, well, recoil, double edge or liquid courage, so as to not have to use any extra potions, it's not worth running them. Now essentially the game plan is the usual Silk strat, just go to a special 3 and do the rotation and you will nuke down most defenders, this Shuri included. So at this point the fight is over, Silk, or rather Shuri, will not be able to do anything else before the fight ends, and I will be finishing at, well, almost full health. A little bit of cheap damage there, which is fine. Normally Silk's auto evade would handle any specials, but Shuri bypasses evade on her special attacks, meaning you can't really use Silk's evade for that. Either way, it's not really an issue, since the specials don't hit that hard anyways, although if you do let the opponent stack up the aggression prowess there, that would be a different story, but it's easy enough to handle with someone with as many hits as Silk does. Now next up we have a Fixit on the Never Back Down and Indomitable nodes, and I will be taking the fight with Silk. As usual, game plan is to just get the special 3 and the fight is done. Fixit isn't exactly a difficult defender to deal with in the first place, at least not anymore, since he doesn't benefit from the defense tactic, and that basically just leaves a slightly tanky defender with an annoying special 1. Now the debuffs he inflicts with his specials do allow me to heal up with willpower, though it is also cutting down on my damage quite a bit. Honestly, it's a surprising damage decrease even with a single weakness debuff, but either way, it will not be enough to stop a rank 3 7-star Silk. Her damage output is just that great. Now, already at a special 3, he used it, so at this point, as long as I don't mess up my combo, there is absolutely nothing Fixit can do here, but to just drop dead, and the fight didn't even last a minute once again. And now then, next up we have a Nick Fury on the buffet over time node here, and I will be taking the fight with White Tiger to deal with the buffet using her nullify immunity, and then her being a tactic shuts down the defense tactic here. Now, that said, the plan was to just abuse MD with the regen and the armor buff, as well as any Fury's fury buffs. However, I made a slight mistake going in here, and I forgot to put on Deep Wounds as well as Mystic Dispersion. 2 very important masteries for White Tiger, especially in this specific matchup. So essentially, the bleeds that the special 2 inflicts, which shuts down any healing on the opponent and steals it, that's gonna be very short. As soon as the indestructible ends, you can see it only lasts a few seconds and then it's done. So the healing from the arc overload node, I believe that's what it's called, is gonna be somewhat of a problem here, and the buffs expiring will not allow me to spam more specials. So what I thought would be a very simple fight, and a pretty quick one at that, turned into a, well, not so fast fight, to say the least. Either way, my plan is to just chip him down slowly but surely, try to keep those furies up for maximized power steal, since I now no longer can abuse MD, and then just get those special 2s in and try to melt him down as quickly as possible, while also managing the defense tactic. Now I did try to time my special 2 here with Nick Fury's second life, but I did a horrible job at it and I couldn't do that. If you time the bleed debuff on the special 2 just as he enters his second life, you can block out the healing with the bleed, steal a lot of it for yourself, and then just let the bleed finish out the fight, though I'm not even sure if the bleed is long enough without the wounds to actually do that. So either way, I am doing the fight just fine. That said, it got a lot trickier without the proper masteries, and you would think I would have them on since the mastery chances are free, but that's probably why I forgot about it, since I'm not used to switching masteries, well, every single fight. Next up we have a Korg here on the power snack and 1 too many hits miniboss node, and I will be taking the fight with Dust, and once again I have the recoil masteries on for this one. Now, Korg isn't a tactic defender, so he's not really all that difficult to deal with. All you need is to just, well, avoid the rock shield or rock charge damage, the thorns, whatever they're called, I can't remember from the top of my head right now. And that basically just leaves the nodes to deal with, out of which the power snack being the more annoying one. Now essentially the game plan is to do the normal dust rotation, a special 3 for the sandstorm, get the prowesses up by having as much sand on the opponent as possible when you throw the special 3, and then just some special spamming and the fight should be over. I did throw on an invulnerability boost, since I'm planning on being slightly reckless with my special 2 spam. And if I have to eat a special 3, I'll just eat it. It has no other effects to really worry about, so the invulnerability boost is there to save me, just in case. I did consume a single charge of it by somehow failing to dex or parry his special 1, but that's not really an issue. As long as I don't eat a combo here, I should be just fine. Now one thing that I could have done a better job at dealing with here are those power sting debuffs, but since the damage isn't that bad, I figured it would be better to just get the fight done, sacrifice a couple potions to heal back up later, and just not do anything risky, like dancing around, waiting for my sandstorm to end, trying to bait specials and wait out the power sting debuffs, and instead just, well, nuke the fight down. Now, I didn't have the mutant power back boosts on for that one, since I'm running pretty low at this point and I will need them for the Bullseye boss, for example. So, slightly risky, but then again, Korg isn't that difficult to deal with, so I felt safe doing so. Next up here we have a Vision Aarkus on the Burden of Might and High Energy Diet miniboss node, and I will be taking this fight with White Tiger. Now this fight should be simple enough, to be completely honest. I can nullify any of the power gain buffs myself manually by simply ending my combo, and well, that's about it. All I gotta do is just get those prowesses up by parrying or hitting his block to deal with the defense tactic, and then just spam my special 2 over and over again, and that's really all there is to it. Since I have Mystic Dispassion active for this fight, it's really very simple. Now every single time I try to power steal Vision Aarkus, he gains another one of those power gain buffs, but that just feeds me more power, allowing me to spam more specials and just nuke the fight down before he can really do anything. Now, that said, there is still the risk of him getting to a special 3, so I still had the invulnerability boost active for that reason, but even if he had used it, it's not really a problem. You will be taking some close-up damage, probably at least, but the fight didn't even last more than roughly 30 seconds, so no risk of dying there unless you start eating hits for no reason. And then, next up we have a Kindred on the Hazard Shift Shock and Bleed, along with Conflictor, Miniboss Snowed, and I'm taking the fight with Dust. Once again, Recoil Masteries are on to increase my damage, and honestly, this fight did worry me a little bit, but since Dust is immune to both Bleed and Shock, the Hazard Shift node does nothing. As long as I can keep up the prowesses from the attack tactic, the Conflictor node will not trigger off the sand debuffs either. All that is really left is Kindred's own kit, which can be a real threat. However, Dust has some abilities to deal with that as well. Mainly the non-contact basic attacks. Only her first medium makes contact, as far as I can remember. Could be the second medium as well, but well, you can avoid using that regardless. Either way, non-contact hits will not grant any infestation charges, so essentially Kindred will be stacking them much slower against non-contact champions than he would, or they would, against others. So that allowed me to basically play around the degeneration throughout the whole fight, except at the very end there. Though that said, as long as you just keep punishing his specials properly, you wouldn't have to do the degen anyways, no matter who you really use. Either way, fight went very well, surprisingly well to be completely honest, but that said, Dust is a good champion, so it can't be that big of a surprise that she does a fight well in war. Though her damage does lack a little bit, especially without recoils. Then next up we have an American Chavez here as usual, just a normal fight, nothing special with Silk. This is on the Aspect of Evolution miniboss node, and the plan is the same as usual. Get to a special 3 and the fight is done. If American Chavez uses special 1, I'll dex it. Special 2, well, I'll try to dex it, but if I fail, which I usually do, the auto evade is there to save me. But at this point, that doesn't matter, the fight is done. Chavez will not be able to do anything else. Just the usual combo, and the fight is done before I even get to use my special attack, which is often the case. Now, even if she survived, well, we all know the drill by now. The special itself would then just completely nuke her out of existence, and yeah, honestly, not much else to say about that one. And finally, we have the final fight of this war, a Bullseye boss that I will be taking with Dust. Recoil masteries are on, boosts are active, I have the White Magneto pre-fight, but this time I am missing the Horseman pre-fight, which turns out is extremely important for this boss fight, but more on that once it makes sense to explain it. Either way, starting off, the plan is to just stack up as much sand as possible, land in those parries and re-parries on every hit to mitigate any of the damage, get the tactic prowess up to deal with the defense tactic, and then just don't be an idiot and hit into his evade, or hit specials or combos or any of that sort. That's really all I gotta do until I get to my special 3, after which it's just a special 3 for the sandstorm, and then spam special 2 until the fight is done, and that's about it. On paper at least. That said, there are so many things in this fight that can go wrong if you don't play it properly, and well, I will be making more than a few mistakes here. Starting off here, I ate the last part of that special 1, which hurt a ton. Dust's health pool isn't that big, so any mistakes you make, you will feel them, and it doesn't feel great. Now at this point, I noticed the issue with not having the Horseman pre-fight. So you can see my specials, they don't hit hard enough to give me, well, basically any power from the mutant powerback boosts. The special 3 itself hit for only 60k, fully boosted with recoils, while with the Horseman pre-fight, the special 3 hit for 90k, so the difference is huge. The special 2 crits as well, the difference being massive. I don't think I could have soloed that fight anyways, even if I didn't make the mistakes that I did and eat the hits that I did. So yeah, going forward I will not be touching this guy without the Horseman pre-fight, and even then, well, if I can avoid it, I will not fight this guy. I don't want to. It's such a pain to deal with, especially without having the strongest options available. I could have ranked up someone like Strife for him, but at this point I wasn't really aware of that matchup, so hindsight is 2020 as usual. Either way, there is yet another death for me for this season, and to be honest, it's not that big of a deal. The death counts are pretty high this season, so dying once or twice in the season isn't exactly a huge deal in terms of your placement. Either way, it does sting a lot, and I'm really not used to it, so every single death, it hits like a truck. Either way, I did get cleared to go in again to finish out the fight, so that's what I'm gonna be trying to do at least. And learning from my mistakes, I'm not leading hits at least from the start of this fight, though anything can change still. Once again the special 3, close to no damage, just barely over 60k, which is honestly nothing. And the special 2 itself, it's weak as hell, to be completely honest. Now, I wanna try to get those physical vulnerabilities into passive ones by landing light attacks to purify them, but with Bullseye's evade here, I didn't really get a chance to do that, and I was too focused on it. Made a mistake by not watching the evade closely enough, and I did get comboed. However, he only threw 2 hits, which didn't take me out. Had he thrown any more than that, I would have been dead a few times over probably, but he decided to spare me this once, so even though I fought horribly the second time around as well, I only dropped a single death this war, which is still acceptable, I guess. But it's not fun. I don't like fighting this guy at all. As for the results, we did end up losing the war 3-8. So while our war was not horrible, Nefti completely destroyed us, and that is a loss that we deserved.